Hello folks, welcome to Yesterday, Tomorrow, and Fantasy with your host Skelevator. Today we are going to be exploring two of my favorite rides at Disneyland and certain changes that have been made to them and the differences between them both. So today we're exploring Pirates of the Caribbean and Haunted Mansion. Let's get lost.
For now we enter the land of yesterday and tomorrow, and of course the land of fantasy.
So on our latest trip to Disneyland, I noticed a few things about both of these rides. When I'm really interested in something, I usually look for materials related to those things online, either books or collectibles. There's a lot of t-shirts and collectibles and toys and things like that for both of the rides. But as far as archival materials go, I feel like Haunted Mansion has more information available out there. In fact, Disney Editions has an entire book on the Haunted Mansion and how the Imagineers created this ride and also the other versions of the Haunted Mansion at the other parks. Why they don't have a book like this for Pirates of the Caribbean is a little bit beyond me. Disney, if you're watching this video, which I highly doubt you are, you should certainly create a book like this for Pirates for us. Now, as fans of both the rides, I'm sure you've already noticed this, but the ride Haunted Mansion and the ride Pirates of the Caribbean have slightly different relationships to the film versions that have come out. So we've got Johnny Depp in Pirates, of course. We even have Jeffrey Rush that was added to the Pirates ride. And I don't recall them investing a lot of time and effort in incorporating the actors or the characters played by actors from the Haunted Mansion films into the ride. But they didn't go in and add in, Eddie Murphy or different actors portraying familiar characters because, of course, there is a legacy. The original Madame Leota was acted by and voiced by Leota Toombs, and then also later on, Leota Toombs' daughter, Kim Irvine, has eventually replaced her in the ride, and that's really, really cool. Keeping that character in the Imagineer family is amazing. So it's interesting to me that they haven't included actors from either of the Haunted Mansion films, and I'm not sure if that's because they weren't really that successful, but I'm glad they haven't. The changes that they've made to the Haunted Mansion seem to always align with the Haunted Mansion aesthetic. They're usually a nod to maybe original ideas that weren't originally incorporated or were barely incorporated or briefly incorporated, like the Hatbox Ghost, bringing that back. And then also the, of course, the oddball melting wax figure that Raleigh Crump designed and bringing that in. So I feel like the changes they make to this ride are usually along the lines of Easter eggs or nods to the original idea of the ride, as opposed to the changes that have happened to Pirates, which is more like, how do we modernize it for contemporary audiences? Almost like they feel more confidence in the Haunted Mansion ride being an appealing ride for youngsters, and Pirates not having the appeal to young audiences, at least until the new movies came out and they started to incorporate those references into this ride. Now, personally, I really enjoy the original version of the ride. I'm glad they've made changes for it to be a bit less offensive. There are certain things in the original ride that I'm glad they've changed. And I'm glad that they've given a female pirate some autonomy in this ride, which is really awesome. But including Johnny Depp, I still, to this day, have mixed feelings about it. And the changes they've made to Haunted Mansion, I'm all for. We're not going to be talking about the Nightmare Before Christmas overlay to the Haunted Mansion because that doesn't really pertain as a permanent change. And I'm glad it's not a permanent change. If it were, I'd be really sad to lose the original Haunted Mansion, and I'm so glad that every year we get to have the original ride to ride through. There's also another film influence on this ride that I don't think is talked about very often, and that is that I discovered that Captain Hook and Smee from Peter Pan are both subtly in this ride. and it hasn't always been this way. I picked this up recently because on our last trip to Disneyland, I happened to notice that two pirates were dressed very much like Captain Hook and like Smee. I didn't remember one of them having a hook hand. In fact, I think my perspective of this character was greatly influenced by old-timey images of the ride, and I think I've just sort of glossed over the fact that they gave him a hook at some point. These two characters right here look very much like Smee and Captain Hook, correct? So we've got Smee here and a version of what could be interpreted as Captain Hook, the same red cloak and the same style hat. Of course, there's a beard here. Smee is playing a flute, so they're not exactly the characters, but they're certainly influenced by the overall design of those characters, from the cartoon especially. However, you notice here, there's no hook on this character's hand. This book actually reflects the original version of this character as it showed up in the ride. And according to footage that I've been exploring, around the early 90s is when they added a hook to the pirate's hand. I've been going to the park since the 80s, and Pirates is one of my favorite rides, and I didn't even notice that they had made that change until this recent trip. So I bought this book because I thought, okay, first of all, I wonder if they're going to include Johnny Depp, because this book came out in 2023. So are they going to include Johnny Depp? Are they going to show the Captain Hook version of that character? And it's really interesting, Johnny Depp's character, Captain Jack Sparrow, is not in this book. Also, Captain Hook's hand is a hand, as you saw in the illustration, and not a hook. So very interesting choice on the part of the author and the illustrator of this book to disinclude the film franchise information and also a more updated version of the ride. And just for the fans of the original pirate that's sitting on top of the gold, yes, of course it's 2023 that they made this book, so there's not an updated version of that pirate here in this book. Folks, if you're interested in having a piece of the original Pirates of the Caribbean ride in your collection, this is certainly a thing to get. Final thoughts here. It's really interesting that there's a secret Captain Hook and Smee in the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. I love that they found a way to incorporate that very subtle reference. And I'm happy about the changes that have been made to the Haunted Mansion ride over the years. It seems to really be inspired by the nostalgia of the original ride. And so that makes me a little bit hesitant to enjoy adding a new and more advanced animatronic to the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. It's a little weird, and I also still have mixed feelings about having a Johnny Depp and Jeffrey Rush character in that ride. I think it would be really interesting at some point, maybe a major anniversary for the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, for them to return the original Blackbeard-inspired pirate that was on the ship, take Jeffrey Rush out for a little bit, and maybe remove Johnny Depp for a period of time, and maybe even bring back the original skeleton sitting on the pile of gold pirate. But most importantly, I really think that Disney Editions or a branch of Disney Publishing should provide us with a book that talks about the Imagineering experience of making Pirates as a ride, just like they did with the Haunted Mansion, full of delicious photos, and even include information about Pirates as it exists in other parks as well. So folks, what are your thoughts about the changes made to Haunted Mansion, the changes made to Pirates of the Caribbean? What is your ideal version of these rides to you? So as a final thought, I just want to say, if you like my t-shirt, there's a company that makes these. They're called Matterhorn Stitchworks. The link is right down below. If you type in SKELE15, you'll get a 15% discount on your purchases. They make all kinds of cool products pertaining to the Disney parks, and they're awesome, great people too. So check them out. Also, thank you so much for being here. If you like this content, be sure to click like and subscribe. Tell your friends about Yesterday, Tomorrow, and Fantasy with your host, SKELEVADER. And enough of this chit chat. I'll see you in the next video.